This video is going to talk about three important elements of voice that you use during public speaking. And those three elements are volume, how loud or soft you speak, your rate of speech, how fast or slow you speak, and finally, inflection, how you use your modulation of your voice, the rise and fall of your voice to be effective as a public speaker. So first of all, volume is an important element because if your audience can't hear you, obviously they're not going to pay attention to what you're speaking about. The key to being able to use volume effectively as a public speaker is to carry your voice from your diaphragm. I'm going to lower the camera just a little bit so I can show you where your diaphragm is. If you're looking at your body, your diaphragm rests from the area from just below your ribs down to your belly button. So it's actually a pretty short area right in the center part of your body. Okay? When you are using your diaphragm from which to speak, you're actually carrying your voice from here. You can think of your voice as coming from that area in your midsection and rising up through your chest and out your mouth, or out the top of your head. If you have ever done any singing, this will probably sound familiar to you. Your choir directors probably talk to you about having your voice move from there. Sometimes people center their voices in their throat, right here in the middle of their neck. So if you feel like your voice is coming from there, sometimes you're going to sound raspy like this, or you're not going to have a lot of volume, and it might feel tight in the back of your throat. When you really push your breath from your diaphragm, you're going to be able to increase your volume. Sometimes when people get in front of an audience, they start to lose volume because they get nervous. They start to do what's called swallowing their voice. They hold their voice in here. I actually sometimes have that problem. So what you really have to do is think about using those diaphragmatic muscles and really pushing your volume from there. Often students will report that it sounds like they're yelling. When they do that, you're probably not yelling. You really want to think about projecting your voice to the back of the room, however far that is from you. So standing in spaces and being able to project is a good way to practice. We may do some exercises if you're meeting with me to be able to project your voice. If not, having someone stand in front of you or sit in front of you and then change the distances between you and the audience member can test your volume and help you to practice. The second element of vocal delivery that's important is rate of speech, how fast or slow you're speaking. Obviously, if you're up in front of an audience and you're nervous, you're going to have a tendency to speak faster. So sometimes that can really alter students' time limits or their use of time. Sometimes when you get nervous, you speed up and you might leave out details. You might be trying to rush to get to the end of your message. In order to control your rate of speech, it's really important that you sometimes stop, take a breath, and remember to just slow down. You as a speaker control what happens with us as an audience, and often that happens with rate. If you are speaking extremely quickly, sometimes we feel, as audience members, feel like we're trying to catch up to you, like we can't keep up with the pace of what you're saying. So being able to slow down and really look at an audience member, really talk to one person at a time, will help control your rate. If you know you're going to speak faster in front of an audience, you also may wish to plan a little bit of extra information to share with the audience so that if you notice your time frame is short, that you'll be able to expand that time frame. Finally, you want to be able to use inflection. Inflection is the natural rise and fall in your voice that gives meaning to what you're saying. You'll notice that I am not speaking monotone. Monotone is when you just have the same tone of voice the whole time and you're not differentiating any difference between what's important and what's not important. Sometimes you sound like you're not really thinking about what you're saying. You're just speaking at the same tone. Monotone, obviously, is what we would call boring. We have a hard time following it because the speaker isn't giving us any indication of what's important. What should we pay attention to? Where is something that is serious? I might lower my voice and get quieter if I want to make a point. I may stop and let the audience think about what they're listening to. If I get excited and I put a smile on my face, I'm going to raise my voice up, my tone of voice, and also sometimes speak at a slightly faster pace. So you're going to notice that inflection and rate kind of match each other. You want to use inflection in your speech to help give give clarity to what you're saying and help the audience understand what's most important in a message. A great way to practice inflection is to just find a sentence and put the emphasis on different words. The example that I often use is, I shot my husband. So what I will do is say that sentence, emphasizing each of the words in the sentence, and giving you just a second to pause and think about what that means. I shot my husband. I shot my husband. I shot my husband. I shot my husband. You'll notice this, that when I do this, every time I change the emphasis of where I'm putting the inflection on a word, changes the meaning of that particular sentence, even though it's the same words spoken repeatedly. You probably also noticed that when I spoke, I also changed my facial expression and sometimes my body language. So controlling your voice also happens from the use of the rest of your body. So if you're using your face to express things, you're less likely to be monotone. So if I open my eyes and I raise my eyebrows and I sound excited, it's going to change the tone of my voice. If, however, I am angry and trying to communicate that I'm angry, you'll notice that everything in my face is closing in and it's pointing downward. It also changes the tone of my voice. It's really hard to sound happy and get my voice up when my face does this. If, however, I put my face like this and I smile, then it totally changes the tone of my voice. So I highly encourage you to do a little bit of experimentation. You could even do what I'm doing, record yourself, and then watch yourself back and make different facial expressions. As I'm speaking, I am really looking to the camera. I'm not looking at myself as I'm speaking. Occasionally you'll see my eye contact change, where I might check out what I'm doing. It's important to keep that in mind when you record yourself, because otherwise you're going to be watching yourself and your facial expressions may reflect what you're seeing in terms of your facial expression. So just practice and see what it is that you look like when you're naturalistically communicating. So again, those three important elements of vocal delivery are volume, how loud or soft you speak, rate of speech, how fast or slow you speak, and your use of inflection, how you're modulating your tone as it goes up and down to communicate meaning. I hope you'll experiment with those so that you can give the best extemporaneous speech that you can.